from reporter Ted Nesi.
Welcome to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nesi. Today we're talking a lot about design and Rhode Island's design world in two very different spheres. Later on we're going to talk to the CEO of Lotuff Leather, which makes high-end handbags and other products in Providence, and they're catching on nationally. But right now I'm very pleased to be joined by Dr. Peter Snyder. He is the founder and managing partner of the New England Medical Innovation Center. And we're going to talk about what that is and how it'll could impact the future of Rhode Island's innovation economy. Dr. Snyder, Peter, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start off. People are going to say, Medical Innovation Center, is it a company? Is it its own institution? You're partnering with hospitals. What exactly is the New England Medical Innovation Center? What do you want it to accomplish once it's fully up and running and you get everyone involved?
Sure. So, well, let's call this NEMIC for short,
okay,
because otherwise it gets long. The New England Medical Innovation Center, or NEMIC, is a center that is its own entity. It'll have its own, it's an incorporated entity, it's a partnership, and it's made up of founding partners that are coming together now as we speak to form a board of directors that will co-govern the activities of the center. The center will have two main missions. One is co-creation and to advance medical design projects that are brought to it from the partners, from corporate clients, from students in the community, from medical students, residents, and from faculty, as well as to provide education. Much needed education in terms of the medical design process, human systems and human factors as it applies to medical design, and the regulatory path, which is very difficult to develop new instruments that fit within U.S. regulatory guidelines.
Can you tick off for us, who are the partners? Who are the people who are involved in this to get it off the ground?
Well, we're talking with a number of partners now. Certainly Lifespan, the hospital system, has been instrumental in bringing this together and very supportive, certainly of my time and effort, and of the center and of the concept, because it meets with their mission. But also the Rhode Island School of Design, the University of Rhode Island, Zymedica, the corporation, the world-leading medical design corporation based in Warwick here, and a number of other corporate partners that we're talking to now, and we hope to have arrangements with very soon.
So you mentioned Lifespan. You are currently the Chief Research Officer at Lifespan, the hospital system. You're actually in the process of transitioning to a similar research-oriented job at URI. Mm-hmm. But because of that, you've had a bird's eye view of kind of this world of all these innovation efforts we hear about at the colleges, at the hospitals, at the companies. People might say, well, all these people already exist. They're already like near each other. What's difference going to be if you open another office that wants them to work together?
So I've been overseeing Lifespan's intellectual property portfolio for the past 10 years. And Lifespan, just to take our hospital system, has about 350 investigators, active researchers. Some of them are clinicians, some are basic scientists. A small proportion of them are inventors, are entrepreneurs. And they're coming out with phenomenal ideas, new technologies that may really transform the way we take care of patients for some of our most difficult to treat diseases. And that's just Lifespan. So if you look at all the institutions in the state, there are a lot of fantastic ideas, a lot of them coming from students who honestly have no idea what the next step is. They don't know where to take it. They don't, once you graduate from school or once you leave your program, it's unsure, it's unclear how they proceed. And what we want to do is create that infrastructure to support good ideas wherever they come from, not to replicate what already is here, but to build a new ideational space and capacity that the institutions share in together and then will benefit from together.
So people listening, some folks might say, well, it sounds great for doctors, for researchers, for students at Brown, but what does it mean for me? What do you see? You've pitched this. Commerce RI has provided some support, the 195 Commission. You've made a pitch to them that's broader for the Rhode Island economy. What is that pitch? What's your broader view of how this could benefit Rhode Island as a whole?
Well, NEMIC has two main goals, and one is to create and to spin off companies that not all will stay in Rhode Island, but I think a lot will. I think we create the environment that makes it attractive. We set down roots. with our new inventors and spin-out companies, and those companies will create jobs. And that's one very important thing that we do. NEMIC will also hire some small staff itself, but the real growth in terms of jobs will be in the spin-out companies that we create. The other is in educating the workforce. We want to create everything from workshops to seminars, in-services, to actual graduate training programs that can lead to younger people staying in this sector and staying in this state in order to work in medical design.
So you're actually going to be physically located right down in the 195 land, the Innovation District, where so much attention has been focused down there for a while. You've, as I said, received some support for starting up from the commission overseeing that. Right now you're in 1 Ship Street, which is a building down there that they did some upgrades. So I think J&J, Johnson & Johnson's been in there. But you're eventually going to move into the Wexford complex. Much talk about the Wexford Innovation Complex. Big effort by the governor behind that. Why was the Wexford project appealing? Why did you think that was a place where you wanted NEMIC to be?
Well, first, we're moving into 1 Ship Street in March. It's being renovated
March
for us
2018,
now.
yep.
But the shack across the street's already in for seafood, so we got that covered.
You got food, yeah.
Yep. The Wexford building, when that goes in, I think is going to really be transformative for the city. It's going to have state-of-the-art laboratories, co-creation space, company space, commercial space. It's going to be really a tremendous asset for the community. And one of the major tenants likely to be in the Wexford facility is the Cambridge Innovation Center. And we are really looking forward to partnering with CIC and being an anchor tenant. The Cambridge Innovation Center, in all of its locations, of course it started in Cambridge, but they have a number of locations now, they've done a tremendous job in seeding company growth, company startups, and finding synergies just by co-location. And we want to be part of that environment. We want to be part of that ecosystem, much the way that artists work together in shared space in order to have adjacent studios so that they can co-create and get ideas from each other and feed off of each other creatively. That's what we want too.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk much more about the view of the New England Medical Innovation Center, what they want to do, and later on about Lotuff Leather. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi. We're talking right now with Dr. Peter Snyder. He's the founder and managing partner of the New England Medical Innovation Center. And if you're just joining us, it's a new outfit going to be based down in the 195 innovation area that wants to help connect different institutions in Rhode Island working on research, especially medical research, obviously. How was that for a summation? What do you think?
Perfect.
All right. That's what I like to hear. Clean bill of health from the doctor here. So as I was reading up on some of the early stuff you guys are working on at NEMIC, as the short for the Innovation Center, one of your initial projects caught my eye. You're participating in something called it's the Korean Institute of Startup and Entrepreneurship Development, and it's their Global Accelerating Program. Korea is pretty far from Rhode Island. So how did you get involved with them here, and sort of what's the use of that to NEMIC to be involved with that?
So that was a happy circumstance. We were introduced through the Cherrystone Angel Partners Group to a woman who's now a partner in NEMIC, Ms. Lydia Shin Schroeder, who's Korean, who's been living here for many, many years. And she's very well connected to the biotech startup community in Seoul. And there was an opportunity to pitch to the Korean government the idea of starting a global accelerator for biotech startups in South Korea who would like to enter the US market, have no idea how, what would be of interest, everything from how clinicians practice differently in this country and what would be of interest medically that might be of interest here and not there, or vice versa, as well as the regulatory path that is required to work in the United States. And so she and I traveled to Seoul. She's been there several times on behalf of NEMIC, and we have created an arrangement with the government where they are funding 8 companies starting in March to come and live in residence here for a month to learn about medical innovation from our perspective, and we're putting together an entire program for them. But that's a prelude. We expect that to happen over and over again, first of all, and now we're talking to other Korean agencies that are interested in seeding companies with us for 3 months or 6 months. One group is actually talking to us about bringing in one of its hand-picked biotech spinouts from a university and embedding them with us for up to a year. In a year's time, the amount of integration that you can foster into our community, the likelihood that they will stay grows. The longer they're here, the more connections they make.
So you have the possibility that these Korean companies will, there's a big United States to choose from, but they might make a footprint here in Rhode Island.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Well,
and it was an interesting sell at first because they knew where Boston was on the map.
Of course.
They honestly didn't know where Providence was on the map, and we had to show them and assure them that we're good. We have a lot going on here.
There's
and
a train.
It's worth their while. And there's a train.
There's a train. Not Long Island, as we sometimes have to tell people from far away. It's hard sometimes for people here not to look up the road. You mentioned Boston. You mentioned Cambridge enviously a little bit and say, oh, wow, there's so much innovation going on. There's so many companies. Every day there's a company opening an office up there. What's your assessment of the strength of the research sector in Rhode Island right now? Or are there specific strengths that you do think make Rhode Island, Providence, our hospitals, our colleges stand out?
So I think there's tremendous strength here in Rhode Island. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't the case. And most of our top faculty chairs and chiefs wouldn't be here if this wasn't academically a very exciting environment to work in. We have innovations that are just thrilling me every day coming out of our labs, coming out of our partners' labs at other universities here. And we are different than Boston. We have some areas of expertise that Boston is low on. For instance, because we are co-located with the Rhode Island School of Design and they're a partner with us, we have expertise in human-centered design and user-centered design and in human factors that the heavy engineering programs in Cambridge don't have and would like to have and are actually talking to us about. The transportation, parking, cost of living, the ability to find space to work is really making Rhode Island now look very favorable. And I don't see us as being separate and competing with Boston. I think that's the wrong way to go. I think our approach should be that we are part of the larger ecosystem. We are part of this larger hub in the Northeast of activity in medical design and biotech, and we have a lot to offer here in Rhode Island, particularly for companies that are young, starting out, and need room to grow.
So I only have about a minute left, but I really want to quickly get from you a thumbnail sketch of a cool story, very concrete to people. It's called Lubricant and involves Dr. Gregory J., who's a researcher locally. Quickly tell us what happened there and why is it exciting to the folks in your world?
Well, Dr. J, this is a good idea, a good example of how long things take sometimes to gestate. Dr. J has been working on this technology for over 15 years in Lifespan's laboratories, and we just recently signed a deal for the first indication. His company, which is a spin-out that came out of Lifespan, signed a deal with Novartis for the first clinical indication. And this is a protein that is we can now manufacture that is endogenously made in the body in the joint space. That's an incredible lubricant. Think of Teflon, but 10 times better than Teflon. So the applications, and it's also non-reactive, so you don't have a toxicity issue. We can use this surgically for all sorts of things, for arthritis, for dry eye, which is the first indication. It has lots of uses. It's a very exciting development. It could transform the way a number of things are treated that are ailments that we all suffer from. And it's an important partnership that we have with this spin-out company and with now Novartis. So we're very proud.
Figured out right here in a lab in Providence.
Right here in a lab in Providence at
Pretty
Rhode
cool.
Island Hospital.
Pretty cool. All right, Dr. Snyder from New England Medical Innovation Center, thank you for joining me. Don't go away, though, because coming up next, we're going to talk to the CEO of Lotuff Leather about their handbag company and what they make and their design world right here in Providence. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nesi, and right now I'm very pleased to be joined by Ellen McNulty-Brown. She is the CEO of Lotuff Leather, and we're going to talk about what they make there. They're getting national attention. Actually, just saw you in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times in the last couple weeks, which has to be pretty exciting for you guys.
Yes, very exciting.
Thanks for being here, Ellen. Thank you. So tell us what exactly you do, what you make, and what you sell at Lotuff Leather.
Sure. Lotuff, we hand make the most exquisite leather bags in the world. It includes briefcases, travel bags, handbags, and small leather goods accessories.
I even saw on your website you had iPad cases.
Yes.
The Time store actually had a dog leash. Very
Brand
nice dog
new,
leash. Yeah.
Yes, for the four-legged friends. We've got the leashes and the collars now.
Got to have them in style too.
Yep.
So the company has been in Providence now since 2013, I believe.
2012, actually, in
2012,
Providence.
sorry. Well,
yes.
that's why we fact check live on there. So for a couple of years, you've been in Providence now. How widely, for people who aren't familiar with the company, how widely are your products sold? Where are your main places where people find your products? Where would they find them?
So we distribute through some of the best shops in the best cities around the world. Barney's New York is one partner. Bird in Brooklyn, they have 5 shops. They're fantastic. We do well anywhere you have a store owner that can actually tell the story of why our products are so special. So being able to really call the client and say, we have something, come in, check it out. That has been where we've always seen great turn.
So very, very different from the retail model of just have a billion stores on every corner. You're looking for the folks who really target exactly what they have in the store and know their customers well.
Yeah, and I think that that's what's working. So it's super interesting because I've been in retail for 20 years, and if somebody said, I'm going to just open up a store and put my shingle out there and expect people to show up, I'd say, well, don't do it. Don't, because that's what's not working. I think where you see companies like Lotuff, the disruptors, working, it's because they're getting a better experience. You know, we understand the type of product they're looking for, we can customize it, and the shopkeepers, the boutique stores, they're calling their customers as well. They're putting together solutions for them. They're creating an experience in the shop. Our team was in New York just yesterday, and they were doing a monogram event at Snyder. The night before, they had done one at Bird, and it's a party, but in the store. So it's great.
Now, you're not going to get a Lotuff bag too cheap. You're on the higher price points, which you guys freely admit. There are bags, obviously, at a lot of stores. You know, you walk through Target or wherever, you see bags and bags and bags on there. What is the argument you're making, clearly successfully making, since they're selling well to folks, about why your bags are worth a bigger upfront investment to purchase one of yours than a dime a dozen bag you might find at one of the other retail chains?
Sure. Well, I do think we guarantee all the products for life. So number one, that's very unusual in today's market, but we can do it because of the quality of the material. We use 100% vegetable tan leather, and for the layman, what it really means is that the worst that the bag will ever look is on the first day you get it, because it's not
this is
stamped.
An interesting thing. I've seen you guys talk about this. Explain that. Why you actually argue we assume your bag, you get it, looks good, and then it's going to get destroyed by the rain or whatever. But you say it's going to get better.
It will. And I mean, sometimes, yes, you're going to see a raindrop, and that raindrop will leave its impact on a leather bag. But over time, our leather tells a story, and for the person who really embraces a leather bag, they love the story that it's telling, because where it's worn on the hip, it will have a wear mark, but it will be distinct. And our bags, when you hold the handle, they will actually form to your hand. So anybody else takes your bag, it won't even feel right, because it's not for them. It was always intended for you, who first started to use it and lovingly used it every day. Our people they love the bags because of the quality. And when we were talking about corrected or uncorrected leather and why it gets better, so many producers in the market, there's a shortcut that you can take, and it involves stamping the leather. What it does is it hides blemishes on the surface of the piece. So there's less of a waste factor when you're actually cutting all of the pieces. Our artisans are skilled enough to actually cut around the blemishes. So there's no stamping. And what that means is that another bag the stamp, it'll crack and break down. So somebody is going to need to replace that bag in 5-10 years because they're just dissatisfied with the way it looks. But our piece, there's nothing to crack and break down. It'll get weathered and actually more beautiful because it's just developing this amazing patina. And I credit our creative director because it was a very specific decision that Lindy made when she determined that the vegetable tan leather was really going to be what would allow our customers to have greater satisfaction with the pieces over time.
And you mentioned your artisans. Talk about the process, how long it takes to make one of your, one of your more popular bags, sort of a normal leather bag.
Sure. Some of our most popular bags are also some of the most complicated. We often joke that if there's a way that we can actually make the process more complicated, we often do. It can take up to 3 weeks for a round of a particular bag to make itself, from cutting all the way through to finishing on the floor. One of our smallest bags, the Trip handbag, it's just a basic handbag, 3 compartments, but there's up to 200 processes, 200 different operations that our artisans have to go through in order to create the piece. So I think what's lost is there is no going back and redoing. There are 200 times you touch this piece and you can make it perfect, or there are 200 times you touch the piece and now we've lost it. And the artisans that we employ, they're very good at ensuring it's perfect.
So why Providence? You've been in Providence, we said, for a number of years. I think of fashion, I think of New York City, places like that. Why is Providence the right place you guys decided to have your production facility?
Sure. Well, Lindy McDonough is our creative director and a graduate of the Rhode Island School of Design. And initially, we ended up being in Providence because Lindy thought this would be the space to actually set up a design studio. I joined the company about 3 years ago, and at that point we had to decide what direction were we going to take Lotuff. Would we work with a number of subcontractors across the New England region, or would we actually make the products ourselves, transform the space from simply being a design studio into a design and manufacturing space? And we made the determination to do design and manufacturing in Providence, mainly because if you look at our industry and who has the know-how to make these bags, they're people who have been doing it for the better part of 40 years.
Wow.
Which is amazing, and the quality of what they're doing is incredible. But one of the key weaknesses that I had seen was the generation behind them, they weren't there. So what I was looking at is what happens in 5 years if partners retire, then what? And you have this art that could die because then you don't have anyone to actually pass the know-how to say this is how you do it. So we attracted artisans who had graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design, many of them, and we have 21 employees now here in Providence, 15 of them making the bags. And I think when you say why Providence, I don't know that we could exist anywhere else. The bed of talent that you can actually find here is what has allowed us to actually become what people are referring to as the American Hermes. Which is the highest compliment, because we look at Hermes and say, wow, if we can even, do it half as good as they do, then we're on the right path.
All right, we're just about out of time. Very briefly, what's your favorite Lotuff product?
The duffel. The number 12 Weekender duffel, it's amazing, and when you travel, it goes right under the seat in front of you, and it fits everything.
All right, Ellen McNulty-Brown, thank you so much for giving us a lesson in leather today. Lotuff Leather is the company. If you missed any of this show or any other, it's on WPRI.com and iTunes. See you back here next week. Great.